Great show tonight, by the way. A really, really good show. I feel like Ed Sullivan, a really, really good show. For those of you that are older, you remember Ed.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas. I'm your guide and your host on these wonderful adventures that we have. And I want to wish you a very happy spring equinox. I also want to thank our number one cheerleader, Diara, who now leads the opening dance. So always come on in at 6 o'clock so you can do the dance moves with Tiara to our opening video. Thank you, Tiara, for that. It was awesome. I'm coming to you from Ashland, Oregon, where I am on day 5 of a really powerful retreat with the Twin Ray community, which many of you are familiar with. And it's springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, autumn for those of you down south. And a powerful time of renewal for us in the north, and a powerful time of harvesting for those of you down south. And both of those themes are perfect for tonight's show because we've got another edition of Authors That We Love. And I'm really excited about the authors that we have with us and the incredibly important books that they've written. The first book we're going to be exploring is The Awakening of Humanity, the Dawning of a New Age, of a New Earth, and a Unitive Age. And this is such a perfect book and vision for what this show is all about. We are the awakening world. And so we're going to hear from Dr. Jude Currivan, who is possibly the world's leading cosmologist and one of the great epic speakers and thinkers of our time. I did a pre-record with her. We're going to hear from her. And then we get to hear from the authors of the book, which includes Doug King. Welcome, Doug, to the awakening world. And our old friend, Kurt Johnson. In the beginning, there was Kurt, and it was good. It seems like just about all great things, Kurt's got his hand on promoting it, making it, writing it, creating it. So thank you very much, Kurt. It's great to have you and Doug both with us. I'm really looking forward to learning about your book, which, by the way, everybody, it's a free ebook. So this is a book that by the end of the night, every single one of you should order it, and we'll talk to you about how to do that. But wait, there's more. We also have with us a wonderful author who's a new guest. This is Karina Angela, and welcome. She has written a wonderful book, which actually I received in the mail recently, called Transference, Connecting to Your Soul self. And so we're going to get a chance to meet Karina. And she is a delight. She's just filled with all sorts of positive energy. And she is so loved that you remember someone we met last week, Lee Kempter. Well, Lee has come back to share her appreciation and why Karina is such an important voice for the planet. So we're going to hear from Lee, who many of you got to hear from last week. And it's also a very special night because our beloved brother Omashar, who is such an incredibly important part of our lives, this is his last live performance on the Awakening World for a few weeks, because beloved Omashar is off to visit his mom. And Omashar, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about the journey you're about to take before you play your first song for the night.
Well, namaste, everybody. And for me, it's a little interesting. I've watched the demise of my mother in the last 6 years from a hearty woman who went to the gym, and down to a person who who's 95% blind. She can't walk, she can't move, she has to be lifted around the house. And now she can't even remember a conversation from 5 minutes ago. I had a conversation with her earlier. And so it looks like she's really at the end of her mortal coil. And I know it'll be an amazing liberation for her when she's gone. I know that and she's a confirmed atheist. I keep on trying to tell her, well, where did you come from? Where are you going to go? I've had so many conversations with her, but she says, well, if that is the truth, then and everybody just continually recycled, then wouldn't there be trillions and trillions and trillions of people on the earth? And so we ended the conversation there because I didn't get into reincarnation and all that. So I'm going on a love mission. And last time I went was last July, and it always kind of breaks my heart to not be on this show, let's say, because this is my home, this is my church, and I feel so welcomed here, but also so enlivened every single time that we share with each other, music or whatever. The guests are amazing, and tonight's guests are amazing. So I'm going to sing a song now, and it's called Another Dawn. I don't choose the songs, I just look and it goes, this one, they put their hands up, and so here we go, here we go. Another dawn, another day. Innocent child coming your way. I've been wondering about my life. Oh yeah. Wondering about my state of mind. But then I heard, who is it for? If not for yourself, and how do you feel? And why do you cry, 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 cry? Shooby-doo-wop, whoa. The sun is warming up my mind. Ocean breeze blows me away. And yet still, I've been wondering about my life. Oh yeah. Wondering who will take my place. But then I heard, who is it for? Not for yourself, how do you feel? And why do you cry, 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 cry?
Who is it for? If not for yourself, how do you feel? And why do you cry, 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 cry? And who is it for? If not for yourself, how do you feel? So come on, let's fly. Come on, let's fly.
Going to gallery view. Let's all twinkle, beloved brother Omashar.
Time to fly for all of us.
Absolutely. And
Thank you.
speaking of that, Omashar, I'm going to put the spotlight on you again for a moment. I would love for us to do a quick prayer for your mom and also for safe travels for you. So let's just all put our attention. What's your mother's name?
There's Katie.
So we are sending maximum grace to Omashar for his travels, safe travels, and maximum grace for his time, probably his last time with his mom, and absolute maximum grace for Mama Omashar, Kate. Maximum grace.
Yes, thank you. So grateful for our mothers.
Mm,
Mhm. Thank you.
absolutely. And we're going to have two more Omashar songs today, so I'm excited about that. And he's such a gem. He's also recorded some videos for us to play while he's gone, so we will still be getting Omashar. I want to welcome all the people that are watching on our broadcast partners. You know, that's where most of the people are watching the show. So thank you to everybody watching on Alan Steinfeld's YouTube channel, the Conscious Awakening Network, and all the Facebook groups and pages that we're on, most of whom we're on because of the Sign Network. I was just talking to John and Summer earlier this afternoon. They're going to be dropping into the show this Saturday night. So if you are watching on one of our broadcast partners, that's great. And what I encourage you to do, I'd encourage you to join the Global Peace Tribe. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's really simple. First of all, I'm putting it behind me so you can remember. You go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com. And when you go there, that's, of course, our website. And you can learn all about who we are. We do 2 or 3 shows every week. And by the way, in the new spring season that's just beginning, I'm going to be doing a lot of extra events. We're going to be doing frequently on Friday nights, live streaming from the Haven in Ashland. And we're also going to be doing live streams from the Sunrise Center in Tiburon. So we're going to always do our Wednesday night and Saturday night show and a lot of special events planned for the new season. So it's easy. You just click register for the new season, and that takes you to our registration page. And there's all sorts of different levels that you can come in on. You can come in gold, platinum, student, senior. There's a lot of ways to work with us and to be a part of the Global Peace Tribe. And now is a great time to do it because we're just starting a new season, and you'll get all the Zoom room links for all of our shows from now all the way through the end of June. So please do join us. Okay, the first book that we are highlighting tonight is all about awakening humanity. And I said it's a beautiful ebook. And I'm really excited to share with you this interview that I did with Dr. Jude Curvin. And actually, I'm going to put him on the spot for a moment. Kurt, I would love for you to share with people your understanding or kind of your perspective of who Dr. Jude is. If you could do the introduction of her, because you've known her and worked with her for quite some time. Tell our audience about who we're about to hear from.
Yeah, so all of you know that we're in this global era now where everyone's realizing that all the stories are the same. We're either going to find this unitive consciousness of that we're all the hero with 1,000 faces, trying to make this world the world we'd like to see. And all the messaging is the same. So what Jude is just huge in is in cosmology and understanding that the story of how the universe works is absolutely in sync with the desires of the heart and what all of the wisdom traditions have been telling us. So she has her doctorates in quantum physics from Oxford and also in early archaeology of early human evolution and the stories of our early ancestors from University of Reading. So she comes armed to the teeth with all of that academic background. But as you'll see in her video, she's such an inspiring speaker, just not only informationally, but just straight from the heart. So that's who she is. She's a messenger in this galactic era of the unitive consciousness, and bless her heart, she's everywhere all the time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kurt. And here we go with Jude Curvin. So here we are with Jude, and I'm going to go right into it. Here we are on the Awakening World. So tell us how this book is all about our awakening world.
Well, what I found so wonderful is, first of all, it's sort of an example of something that we spoke of before we came on air, the degree to which people are linking up and lifting up together. And instead of the old hierarchies or the old follow me or whatever, it's much more now radical collaboration and nurturing and support. And that for me is a sort of a temperature gauge for our awakening world. How do we do that? So the book itself is an example of that, because my dear friends, Kurt Johnson and Doug King, and my other dear friend, Bob Atkinson, we came together because primarily it was an impulse of Doug's, appreciating, and all of us indeed appreciating, that this is a time when leading edge science is actually converging with the tenets of interspirituality and universal wisdom and indigenous teachings. And for Doug's work, especially with Christianity communities and interfaith communities, he felt it would be really lovely to see how, our different perspectives might come together. And as the book speaks to, the awakening to a new earth and a unitive age, because I bring as part of what I share is this emergent cosmology of a living, loving, evolutionary, unitive universe, which again is so convergent with those deepest of wisdom teachings.
So within that beautiful vision, how do you personally manage the juxtaposition of watching the horror of what's going on in the world?
Realizing that having profound compassion for the horror of what's happening in the world, perhaps a realization that all of that arises from what I call our collective dis-ease of separation.
Mm.
Because the way we see the world, our worldview, our mindset, is the lens through which we not only see the world, but the basis of the choices we make and the behaviors we enact. So if we're seeing the world through a lens of separation and materiality, we'll naturally behave accordingly. Hence, conflicts, hierarchies, inequalities, all the that we've been going through for a very long time. And also with a scientific paradigm that's basically said, indeed, that this is the nature of reality, that the world is only this physical reality, material reality. It's a reality of essential separation, a universe that's devoid of meaning, bereft of purpose. And so where does that place us? If we're a meaning-making species, if we're a storytelling, sharing species, where does that place us? And it places us in very lonely places. And yet now that's been turned completely on its head. So now that the leading edge science across many, many different fields of research and at all scales of existence is literally turning that old paradigm on its head and revealing a universe which meaningfully exists and purposefully evolves, a living and loving universe, an evolutionary universe, a unitive universe, again, which converges with all of these wisdom teachings. This empowers us. It invites us, it seems to me, to co-create a new and unitive narrative. And that of itself can help underpin and frame transformational change in the world. So this little book, this little e-publication book, is a wonderful, joyous opportunity for Doug and Kurt and Bob and myself to bring together that understanding from our different perspectives and our different journeys to this point, to hopefully share and serve the good of the whole at this incredible moment of potential transformation.
In your understanding of how we, and of course we are watching how our most modern science is validating scientifically what the spiritual teachers have been saying forever. Do you see in your global view, are we going to wake up fast enough? Is there going to be an exponential growth in human awareness and awakening fast enough to overcome, the very real challenges of climate change and all the wars that are still taking place?
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't be here and working as I do and having these conversations if I wasn't hopeful and authentically hopeful that yes, we can. But it is our choice. It's our collective choice to do so. I think this is what's so wondrous about our universe. Our universe, from its very first moment of space and time, nearly 14 billion years ago, has embodied an evolutionary impulse to evolve from simplicity to ever greater levels of complexity. And on our own beloved planetary home, Gaia, her story is a story of collaboration for 4 billion years. Now, that collaboration has involved competition, but that competition has helped drive progress. But where there's been an evolution from simplicity to greater levels of complexity, it's absolutely been founded on cooperation. So it seems to me that first of all, we now have the evidential, the scientific evidence. It's not faith, it is evidential underpinning that we are inseparable, that we can no longer, if we so choose, see the world through a lens of separation, act accordingly. We are being invited, it seems to me, and empowered and hopefully inspired to change our glasses, to clear glasses that can see the world as it truly is, as interdependent, co-evolutionary partnerships at every levels. So it seems to me on that basis, Scott, and it's, all that you do with Awakening World as well, there is this awakening and it's speeding up, it's accelerating. And one of the things that's happened as I look back, 14 billion years as a cosmologist, which I do, and 4 billion years as an evolutionary biologist, which I do, I see that evolution has 3 speeds. Where situations are fairly stable, it's fairly slow, very slow. Where they are changing with, for example, the way in which our planetary home Gaia orbits the sun, her wobble on her axis, all of those aspects that change over thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, which mean environmental change, then evolution speeds up a little bit. But when there is a situation which is unsustainable, either an environmental change that comes from within Gaia's entire Gaia sphere, which through, for example, earthquakes or volcanoes or whatever it may be, or 66 million years ago with an asteroid and the demise of the dinosaurs. When there's most significant changes, the old falls away, but then new comes forward. It's like new springs of change very rapidly and significantly. Now, what I'm seeing now, I think what we're seeing now, is not that level as yet, and we hope not, of catastrophe, but sufficient change, not just in our environments, but in our collective psyche, because we've come to a point that is unsustainable. So the changes in our collective psyche you were talking about, are we going to be fast enough, can happen incredibly fast, just as biological evolution can occur very rapidly as the need is. So I would suggest that our conscious evolution can happen very quickly too. In biology, there's something called horizontal gene transfer. And it's when these very rapid reassemblages, reconfigurations of emergence take place and things move on to a whole new arc of evolution, complexity. I talk about horizontal meme transfers because memes are our conscious genes in that sense. So if we can start to share and spread this new understanding and live it, not to role model it, but to soul model it, then I feel this transformation, this birthing of our next chapter in our adventures as human beings can be very rapid indeed. And then we can not only survive and thrive, but we can heal our relationship with Gaia and with the whole cosmos. We've separated ourselves from each other, Mother Earth, everything pretty much. It's time to remember, I would suggest, who we really are. And that remembering is happening every moment of every day with more and more and more people.
You're very, very inspiring. And you have such a beautiful voice too. So the combination of your wisdom and that beautiful voice is like, I just get entranced. All right, so I have a slightly woo-woo question for you. And recognizing that, you are scientifically based, cosmologist, but also can see the bigger picture. We've had multiple guests over the years that I respect who talk about, from both the spiritual point of view and a metaphysical point of view, parallel universes. So there is a common thought that there's going to be, some people call it the bifurcation, that there's going to be a splitting off of worlds, that, those who have reached a certain level of consciousness will, transition into the world of, I call it rainbows and unicorns, right? And, there's some people that say, okay, that's what happened to the Mayans that didn't want to deal with conquistadors and what was going to happen, and they transitioned to a different plane of reality. From any of your points of view, do you have a perspective about that or a thought about that way of seeing a possible future?
It's such an intriguing question, apart from anything else. And there's a lot to unpack within it, but I'll do my best because it is such an important question. First of all, the whole premise, and I'm calling it a premise, it's not even a theory, let alone anything else with any evidence, of parallel worlds, came about some years ago because it was becoming very, very clear that our universe, all those billions of years ago, didn't begin with what we've been taught of as a Big Bang. It did. It was tiny, yes. Facetious big, it wasn't. It was tiny, we know that. But the implicit nature of a bang is that it's chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how our universe began, and nor has it continued ever since. So I describe that as the first moment of an ongoing big breath. Our universe began in its most tiny form, but incredibly fine-tuned and ordered, not random, not chaotic, but all of that enabled it not just to exist, but it enabled it to embody, because of the innate relationships between all its forces, and the laws of physics meant that it could evolve from simplicity to complexity. But the point there is it was so finely tuned that if you are someone who didn't accept that essentially mind and consciousness aren't something we have, they're literally what we and the whole world are. They are, that there is the fundamental nature of reality. If you don't accept that, if you have a material separatist approach, a reductionist approach to the nature of reality, then that incredible level of fine tuning has to be random, which means there has to be multitudes of parallel universes where every quantum split in our universe is echoed in others, and where everything, you know, so we literally are one of literally an infinity of universes. But if you bring back mind and consciousness, universal consciousness, to the grounding of the nature of reality of our universe, then that changes everything. Because what we can then have a perspective of is our universe being a great and finite thought of an infinite and eternal cosmos, and therefore created and brought into being by that infinite intelligence, by that infinite cosmic mind. Whether we call that cosmic mind, as Einstein did, or God, or Allah, or great mystery, whatever nature and form and name we offer, this is what the evidence now is showing us. So that is the first point around parallel universes. But just to go back to the point, might it be that a point comes where individuated consciousnesses, such as ourselves, may choose to move into another realm of being? That could well be the case, because the emergent understanding is of a multidimensional universe. Therefore, there may be other ways in which, you know, our own microcosmic co-creative consciousness can take a different route into the future. For me, though, it comes back to my question, why am I here? What am I here to do? And I hope what the answer for me is to serve the good of the whole, to serve this evolutionary, universal evolutionary impulse, to serve it in its glory and its wonder, to say yes to the invitation of our universe to grow up and to link up and lift up as co-creative and co-evolutionary partners of our planetary home and our entire universe.
Beautiful. You know, my mentor was Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, and my favorite quote from Marshall is that the greatest joy in life is to be of service to others.
Yeah.
And I've added that the greatest tragedy in life is people who don't know that.
Yes.
You know, it's a blessing to learn that, to know that.
It
And then
is.
life is good. And when you don't know that, life can be very chaotic and confusing.
Yeah.
This has just been a homeopathic dose of Dr. Jude Turvin. And again, of course, this is all part of today's show, all about this beautiful ebook, Awakening of Humanity. But to get more of Jude, I want to direct everybody to her website, and it's wholeworld-view.org. wholeworld-view.org. And it's a beautiful website. You know, her story of Gaia is such a powerful, powerful book, all about the big breath, not the big bang, but the big breath. And I really encourage everyone to go to this website, watch more of her videos. There's a lot there. Definitely learn about her story of Gaia, because she presents an understanding of our beautiful Mother Earth that is so powerful. It's her latest book, the follow-up to The Cosmic Hologram. And I just learned today that she's working on her third book of the trilogy, which is all about us, all about humanity. And as always, sign up so that you can keep track, and she can send you periodic emails from her Unity community.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Jude, thank you so much for this little homeopathic dose of your very special medicine, your very special wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. And isn't it wonderful to be at this time, here and now, and the potential for a unitive age, which is what the book really invites us to enter into.
Yeah, we're so blessed to be finding each other. You know, we are the imaginal cells of the dying caterpillar finding each other to build a new paradigm, to build that beautiful butterfly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. And I'm going to also bring up our other author. First of all, wasn't that amazing? I mean, isn't she just such an extraordinary? I see everybody applauding. Yeah, she's really one of the most wonderful voices that we are blessed to have as part of our Global Peace Tribe. And here are two more voices, the guys who wrote the book with her, Doug King and Kurt Johnson. So welcome, guys. Doug, please unmute because we'd love to hear what you have to say. And I just turn it right over to you. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration for the book and anything you want to kind of add in addition to what we already learned from Jude.
Yeah, well, I will start because there's so much to say about Doug. And Doug, like a lot of humble people, doesn't want to talk about himself. Now, Doug King is a man on a mission, and that story goes back to his father. His father was the theologian Max King. If you go to Wikipedia, you look up Max King, you'll see he was the father of transmillennialism. Well, what is that? It's the view that Christianity is not just about an afterlife where you have a ticket to heaven and you go to heaven and others go to hell, but that the real meaning of Christianity and the biblical narrative, which is what Doug's academic work is in the actual transformation of this real planet in real time with real people. And so the reason this book was written is why it's so important is Doug has had this opportunity in 2024 as so much of progressive Christianity is ready for this message now that we have to solve the problems on this planet, not just in something about an afterlife. And he had all of his invitations from the American Academy of Religion and their program called Theology Without Walls, which is a part of the whole interfaith and interspiritual phenomenon that's again going on worldwide, to talk to them about the real meaning of the biblical narrative and of Christianity itself. And so we actually got together, Jude and I and Bob, to provide the scientific and sociological underpinning for Doug to have that conversation in such an important way. Because Christianity is the largest religion in the world. And if it wants to live in an otherworldly cocoon, well, so be it. But that's not where its destiny is. Its destiny is the escalator, actually saving the real world, real people, real time. So that's Doug. And so I'm just going to throw the baton then to the man in the red sweater.
Well, I don't have to say anything about Kurt, fortunately, because everybody here knows all about Kurt, which makes that easy for me. I appreciate your comments. In my work in theology, for decades, we've used the term all in all to describe that which is what the biblical narrative calls God, but which you may call Brahman, which you may call spirit, which you may call by many names. And so our work really has moved into the trans-religious space. In other words, our nonprofit does not identify with a religion, but we work with people in religion who are ready to move beyond a particular form. And so in doing that, I was attracted to Jude's work very much because she talked about this concept called the Hola movement. And I realized that this is nature's narrative, and that if nature's narrative leads us to an outcome of spirituality that is universal, that is based on unity, that does not have any separation within it, that we're really looking, when we look at the universe, we're really looking at the sources narrative. And so this is the first narrative told by whatever we call that source, spirituality itself. What's spirituality's first story? It's this universe. And what the Holo movement is, quantum physics says it sits between two orders. There's our universe of forms or things, which we see, observe, etc., that's controlled by time and space. But quantum physics in Jude's work, etc., there's the Holo movement. Thank you, Kurt. But in the Holo movement also says that there is something that transcends time and space, and they prove this through the principle of non-locality. They showed where two particles would react at the same time, even though they were separated by thousands of light years. And so from that, the quantum physicists said, there's got to be an implicate order that transcends time and space behind our universe of forms and things, to which we are proposing that this is a narrative in and of itself upon which all narratives of spirituality have all bubbled up, be they indigenous narratives, be they scientific narratives, wisdom narratives, people who have narratives that come from the arts and the creative world or the experiential world. The question that we always ask is, what's your story? You want to know about someone or something, someone's going to say, what's their story? What the story of the universe for me is another evidence of what we're all trying to say about the nature of nature and our nature. So that, yes, there's a world of forms or things. Yes, I exist in a biological form. However, the Holo movement is saying, but there's something beyond this which would indicate something formless. And that means that both formlessness and form are coexisting as one, as a one whole. And this is what I see for myself, that my essence, if you will, is that which belongs to source, and source is formless. And so my real true identity is actually that of formlessness, even though I am navigating in this form of my body and in a world of form, even though I'm navigating forms and diversity, all of which are beautiful. Diversity plays a role in function. It came from source, but diversity is not identity. Identity is always found in source, and the Holo movement is saying that the source of this universe, which includes me, the source of this universe, therefore, is that which transcends forms and things, and that will be the guiding force between narratives that align themselves with the Spirit's narrative of Holo movement, or it will not. We will either have narratives that separate us from other people, or narratives that say some of us are accepted by the universe or God or Spirit, and some of us are not. Those narratives are out there. There will be narratives that lead us to see other, or there will be narratives like we're all discussing tonight, which are based on the narrative of the universe. And that is no. When you actually go down into the quantum levels, what do you find out? Everything is based on this formless source from which all the diversity comes. So that's really why I proposed inside of this book that the Holo movement is the narrative of the universe, and that it has much to teach us, even if we're in creative arts, even if we're in other fields of study, even if we have other narratives that we look at, that we can certainly see the narrative of the universe as validation, a cross-disciplinary look at what we're all saying about our nature as the nature of spirituality.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug just said it so well.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we really have two destinies. We can either do this, which is the embrace, or we can do this and have the conflict because of this separation mentality. And all we have to do is look around the world, whether it's Haiti or Ecuador or Gaza or Ukraine. And why should a species where 99% of people who are want the same thing, which is life, liberty, and safety for the pursuit of happiness. Why would they end up doing this? It's crazy, as Eckhart Tolle said. So that's the choice that's in front of us. And Jude's point is that it's not only known from our heart, but it's known from science itself. Now that we know how altruism evolves and how nature chooses for the good of the whole, Julie Kroll's work, Good of the Whole. So, yeah, wow, it's huge.
You guys, we're going to come back to you. We are going to have Q&A with Kurt and Doug. And obviously, they are deep, wise gentlemen. So I'm going to come back to you guys a little bit. I do want to read a couple of comments, and then I want to introduce our other author in our other book for tonight. But I'm going to read a couple comments. Ayada writes, for me, that would be the emergence of the flower children, also known as hippies in the 60s. The vision, the music, the gatherings for peace and goodwill. We weren't just a bunch of wild-haired, drug-smoking radicals. We were expressing from a mystical place of awareness of a new emergent order on planet Earth. Absolutely. Reverend Jeffrey's been putting all sorts of wonderful comments in, including how to get the book, which I'm going to go to in a moment. But he writes right now, space is full with a field of Planck PCUs as the unifying source of everything, gravity, mass, all forces. Wow. And really appreciating all of Kurt Kruger's. We've got two Kurts, whole lot of Kurt going on tonight. Kurt Kruger has also been doing some beautiful, beautiful posts. So thank you for that, Kurt. And a reminder again that you can get this book, and the way to do it is going to issuu.com, and then you can easily find it. Awakening of Humanity, the Dawning of a New Earth in a Unitive Age. Yes, I do want to follow Light on Lights. Oh, I've got to sign in. I'll do that later when you guys are watching. But I've also put the link into the chat box. Let's all go get this book. Thank you guys for writing it. Thank you for making it free. Stick around because we're going to come back and do Q&A with you. And thank you so much for being here.
Full screen, because when you hit full screen, it will come up big enough you can easily read it. So
okay, that's a good tip. So last week, many of us met for the first time a wonderful woman named Lee Kempter, who's also written a wonderful book, which we highlighted. And Lee has come back this week because many of you loved her, but also because it turns out that she has a beautiful connection with our other author. Now, as you know, we usually lead a meditation. And so Lee is going to lead our evening meditation, a chance for us to kind of calm our minds after all the amazing input we just got. And then she's going to introduce Karina. So welcome back to the Awakening World, Lee.
Thank you. So as we begin this meditation, bring your attention to this upper area of your chest and feel the breath, literally the rising of the chest and the release of breath. Just for a couple of minutes, always coming back to the breath allows the body to relax, to get in sync, to recalibrate. And now picture a sphere on the inside, a sphere of light within the chest. And allow your awareness to move to the center of that sphere, going deeper and deeper toward the center of the sphere. As you get toward the center, allow your awareness to go even deeper into that center. And even deeper. And deeper into the center, the core of the sphere of light. Deeper and deeper. As you move deeper, there's more stillness. And then notice that your awareness can also begin now to begin to expand outward within 360 degrees. It begins to expand from the center toward the outer sphere. So it starts to expand and expand, feeling more expansion, energy moving through your awareness outward until you reach the boundary of the sphere and expand even further. Allow your awareness to move in 360 degrees. Feel it in the front, in the back, all around. It's moving outward, it's expanding. And then see if it can expand a little more and more. Expanding, expanding past the room that you're in, past the country that you're in, past the Earth's boundaries and out into the cosmos, and expand even more. And then allow your awareness to move the expansion through from the cosmos down through your palms and bring that energy literally like a ball in front of you. With your intention, fill that ball with pure love, cooperation, collaboration, unified consciousness, and offer it to this beautiful world in which we live. Once you feel it being received, you can bring your hands in prayer position in gratitude for being a human in this moment in space-time, in this coordinate in space-time as a community. You can release your hands and just feel what your awareness was able to create in such a short period of time and how powerful that can be.
Thank you so much, Lee. That was beautiful. And I'm just going to keep the camera on you as you introduce our next guest.
So with all that expansion in mind, I can tell you that that's one of the things that drew me to Karina. She's written a book, and some of you may, I know some of you may actually have read it, but Transference. And she's speaking in the book about a transference of energy. Well, I met her online and I wanted to have a private conversation with her about it because I was so intrigued about transference of energy. Because what she's done is a little differently in this book. So I got the book and I was kind of expecting her to like go into a trance and bring through Ed Casey. But it was very different than that. What she did differently was that she has been meditating since she was young. She, at the age, by the time she's like 15 or 16, she actually had a spiritual mentor. This is a young girl saying, gee, I wonder if I can astral travel. I wonder what the universe is about. And she was meditating every day. So because she's developed that practice and was so interested in it, she goes into meditation and does what I consider moving into higher dimensions of her awareness or consciousness. So in 2019, she went into what you'd call a normal morning meditation, but all of a sudden she found herself in a dimension having a conversation with a man. And he introduced himself as Edgar Casey. Now, she knew the name Edgar Casey, but she didn't really know much about him. And there he was, and she describes it like there's a granite table between him. This is a physical conversation. This isn't like a dream state or a vision in meditation. But what I was noticed in the book when she would talk about Edgar and she tells you what happened to her that day, the questions she asked him, and then, she gives some exercises that he gives to work with whatever they're talking about. He would just bring up a random subject like, or she would, about autism, and he'd launch right in. And we talked about reincarnation. He'd launch right in. But then I noticed throughout the book, he was getting more profound and he was giving her more information. It was deeper and deeper. And sometimes they would even move to other dimensions where he would show her a big treasure box full of little diamonds. I mean, so these guys were moving dimensionally, and she did this every day. So my question to her, and I'll let her tell you how she answered that, but my questions were like, how did you get over the initial shock of meeting someone in a higher dimension? And then was it something you did that allowed this conversation to expand over time? And then a woman shows up. I'd love to hear about her energy. When every time her energy pops into the book, I just feel effervescent something going on because her energy is so amazing. So I wanted to kind of start us off that way to give you a feel for who Karina is and what, the amount of years it took for her to get to the place where she could go into meditation and just move into these higher dimensions of herself very easily. Yet I'm sure there was still some kind of process when all of a sudden you meet a stranger. So, Karina.
Thank you, Lee. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it was quite the process. Absolutely, 100%. Like you said, I had started meditating when I was a teenager, but very consistent and wanting to explore, just insatiably curious about my own self-discovery of why I'm here, all the big questions, right? So in 2019, when Edgar came in, I was shocked and who is this person? Because I had no backstory. I had not read anything of his, any books, nothing. I had nothing to grab onto of who this person was. Because when he told me his name was Edgar, I'm like, and he was almost testing me, like, do you know who I am? Like, I have no idea who this person is. And I could see him in his early 30s, and I could just see him clearly. And he was almost pleased with the way I reacted, because I had nothing to, grab onto of like, who is this person? I just thought he was a psychic or something. And but it was this beautiful relationship that evolved and that unfolded like a beautiful flower, like the lotus. It was, one petal at a time. And it was this self-discovery of myself, but then also really diving into this unique and different process that I had never witnessed or experienced before. So it was the evolution of the relationship till this day as well. But for 4 months, really diving in, waking up, 4 o'clock in the morning, I had an incredible structure that I abided by for my own self, just to have that structure and have the information that was coming through to be very clear and pure and articulate. That was very important for me for this process of learning who this person was and is, I could say. So it was quite the process. When Gladys came in, it was just beautiful. So this is all in the book. It's a step-by-step process. So I wrote in live time. I wrote what was happening with my own process that day. So there's 44 entries of incredible information, but just random. There's a variety of different topics that we discussed in our dialogue that we had. But when Gladys came in, she just came in as this beautiful energy, this very light, angelic oh, it's just floaty. I mean, it was just incredible. And I asked Edgar, I said, what is it? Who is this? And he's, oh, that's Gladys, like it was, oh, that, say hi. Hi. And I'm writing as, I'm there with them. And I'm also writing at the same time and then so I'm going in and out, in and out, in and out. And she was just lovely. This just beautiful, beautiful energy that I had never experienced before. So that's how Gladys came in, and it's all step-by-step process within the book of how it unfolded, because every day was new. Every day was a new experience, a new energy, a new transformation within myself, but also what I was experiencing. So.
It's a wonderful to meet you, and what an incredible life you've had so far. I'm also grateful to have a copy of the book, which, there we go, you can see it this way. There's a question from Reverend Jeffrey, who of course is a mutual friend. He says, when I read your book, I felt like I was going through transformative experiences. It felt very organic and developmental. What kind of transformative experience did you have in creating this work of transference? Now, you've spoken a little bit about that, but I think maybe you can even take us a little bit deeper of how this work transformed you, which then led to your understanding that you convey in the book.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I'll try to unfold, but unpack that question. Well, there's 44 entries, and then there's also 28 exercises that I was receiving and writing down, but also was integrating and processing each of these exercises. So the transformation within myself was an everyday occurrence, really. But these exercises, specifically the 28 exercises that are in the book, I had to go through them, practice them, and integrate them to embody them. And it took me 4.5 years to go through all of them. So it's fantastic to be here, right now, and then teach other people and talk about it, because I feel like I'm back in 2019 when I speak about it, or when I'm in my groups and reading an exercise and helping others learn these exercises. It's just phenomenal. The energy is just right there. I'm right in it again. It's quite fascinating. So it's hard to just say one transformation. I mean, it's been this amazing process of my own transformation in my body, my mind. It's clearer. I'm healthier. I mean, I just could go on and on. My whole life has changed. I mean, drastically, in a very amazing way.
Lee, it looked like you had another question for her, so I'm going to bring you up for a moment.
Yeah, what one of the things that Corinne and I talked about is when you have a metaphysical sort of experience, you feel a little bit vulnerable. So what she was telling me is like when she meets this guy, and she didn't have the complete confidence in herself to say, I'm willing to stand here with this guy and have this conversation. And when she backed off, guess what happened? He backed off. And this is an interrelationship that we have with all information that's coming in and to us and from the field. So that's why I was trying to ask, like, what did you do to build that confidence? Because I'm going to be honest with you, if I meditate in the morning and Edgar shows up, I'm going to call you. What happened? Because I just would be so outside my brain's capacity to have Edgar Casey show up. So that's why I'm asking, like, what was that you did that shifted in you that you could then be in relationship with him in the kind of really sweet and powerful relationship that you had with him and with beautiful Gladys?
Honestly, it was a process, everyday process of building that strength and building that relationship with this energy, with this information. Really, it was just this evolution of myself, being vulnerable enough. But even, there were days where I just didn't want, I didn't want to connect, and I'm meditating and he's there. And I'm like, I don't want to do, it was just like kicking, and having a little tantrum. And it's like, okay, shift. Even when my ego would come in and we were there, we're having dialogue, he could feel my energy shifting, and he would course correct. It was almost, he'd bring this wave of energy, and I would be like, oh, and I would feel lighter. And I describe this in explicit detail in my book because it was my own process of like, what is that? And I would question it. So I'm very left-right brain. It's like I need to understand it to full capacity in order to experience it for myself and then share it. So that was very important for my own process to really go through this, step-by-step process. But as it got a little easier, I mean, halfway through the book, it gets more intense. The time, there's always a stop. There's a start time and a stop time. And if you pay attention to the duration of time that we spent together, it gets longer and longer and longer. So it's, the duration of time is irrelevant there, but you know what I mean? It's just being very focused of, wow, okay, it is building. So this whole process, the step-by-step process of connecting to your soul self is a process in itself of an everyday practice, an everyday ritual, if you want to say that. But it's honoring yourself that much to explore and to grow and to evolve from and transform yourself into your own transformation, so you can share it with other people and connect with other people on many different levels.
I'm going to read some comments and questions for you. Lee writes, I felt like Gladys was the divine feminine and Edgar the masculine. They are dynamic together as a team who worked together for 30 years. Is that kind of how you see it also?
They came in very feminine, and he was very masculine. So it was like the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the yin and the yang, the balance of that. And, the trine, so the power of three. Trine healing is from the power of three, of how that is created and how you build up that relationship. It's there. I mean, they're such an amazing team. I mean, they're just, it's the ebb and the flow of being with them, and them meaning their energy of witnessing and experiencing was just the adventure of a lifetime, really. But to witness it and feel it firsthand, it's like, wow, what is that? I mean, it was just, I was a kid in a candy store going, wow, look at all this candy, this is so exciting. I would just go in, just bright, big eyes, and like, ooh, what am I going to learn today? And that's where the curiosity comes in, that insatiable curiosity of the why. Like, why is this happening? What's going on? I was the why kid growing up. Like, why? Why is that way? And how does that work? And so, yeah, that's a part of my personality.
Beautiful. Well, one of our favorite people who comes here often is the wild monk of the Mystic Monastery, Terry Anderson. And he's very excited about the fact that I think many of our people are, that you had this connection with Edgar Cayce. Is there anything that Edgar shared with you about what's happening in the world that you can pass on?
It's interesting. I would ask him certain questions and he would almost defer and we're going this way. And I would go, okay, we're going to go this way. So there were certain topics he would love to talk about, but then there was other topics that I'm like, no, like Atlantis. I'm like, ooh, he's like, no, done that, been there, done that. We're going this way. Okay. So yeah, it was quite extraordinary. But I think just the evolution of the world, coming into the new world, coming into a new way of thinking, a new way of growing, a new way of connection with other people, was just so fascinating to learn more about his take on it, his energy of, where are we going? The main focus was children, the new children coming in. And so in the beginning, that's why he asked for me to write these books, is, to help other children in the world that are up and coming, so we can leave an amazing legacy to bring forth new information, to have that shift happen.
There are a lot of questions coming in the chat box from people wanting to know about Gladys. Who was Gladys? Was she with him physically while he was alive, or is she just a multidimensional being? So tell us, who's Gladys?
Yeah, who's Gladys? Who's Gladys? So Gladys Davis Turner. She worked with Edgar for many, many years, over 30-something years. And he, as a teenager, Edgar brought, kind of underneath his wing, brought her into his family, and she was a part of the family. But then she grew so fascinated with Edgar's work that she started, taking notes for him and started, being with him in his sessions. So it grew from there, and they had she was his right and left hand. And before he died in 1945, they both created ARE in Virginia Beach. So she, after Edgar died in 1945, she continued his work for many years until she passed away. So it's just this evolution of their beautiful relationship was just exquisite. And there's so much deep, deep love and devotion there that I'll just cry if I start talking. So that would happen too. The dialogue and the connection that we would have, it was very physical. I mean, I would just be bawling some days, on many days, because it was just so heartfelt and pure and just beautiful to witness and experience.
Now, did Gladys come to you also physically, kind of the way you were with her?
Yeah. So first she came in as the energy, and it was just, this beautiful, radiant, angelic energy. But then she would pop in as a physical, and I could see her in her young, beautiful form as a, early 20s. And her face was just gorgeous and tall. And, she had her blondish hair, and she was just beautiful, breathtaking, really. And then she would pop out, but she was always there. Throughout the book, I started intertwining her more and more, because Edgar would be like, okay, talk about Gladys a little more. And then, okay. And then I'd ask her questions. So as we go, I'm building more of a relationship with her, but she's always there because they're the balance of the feminine and the masculine. So when Edgar's there, she's always there. She's always there. So
wow.
One in the set, they're one. So I guess you could say.
Well, there's more questions coming in, but it is time for an Omoshar song break. And then we're going to come back and have Q&A with Kurt and Doug and Karina. So pop your questions in, but remember to move and groove to the music. And I'm turning it over to our beloved brother, Omoshar.
So that was pretty amazing, Karina. And when I used to live in Virginia a couple of lifetimes ago, and I went to the ARE foundation, Edgar Casey's foundation, and Gladys. And what a phenomenal place. It's still fully alive today, fully powerful, fully working, pumping on all pistons, so to speak. And something that Lee brought up, I will play a song. However, something that Lee brought up, she brought up a point that you made of when you took your attention away from Edgar, his attention will go away as well. And in songwriting, I found that to be exactly the same. Actually, with any cosmic information coming in, is that with songwriting, I call it a song tree. It comes and knocks on your door, and I know it's there. And I sometimes get very tantrumy and I can't be bothered. No, just go away. I just want to push it away. But if I open the door to the song, it comes in, and I know I've got a day or 2 or 10 to write it out. And so I have to get very disciplined. But the moment I take my attention away from it, it doesn't follow me. It doesn't chase me. It backs off. It goes off again. And so this kind of confirms that where we place our attention, there we are. And so that's the moral of that story.
And now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise at higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. 'Cause love is reaching through hearts of the unknown. Our world is waking up to our different points of view. 'Cause now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. Life itself is now realized. So shake yourself free of the past. No longer do we walk in the dark. Show each other what we can do, and let our light shine right on through. Let the good of humanity stay, and let the dross simply fade away, and let the mother return to us all, so that love can have her way. 'Cause now we recognize we've been hypnotized. The spell is wearing off, so now we rise with higher frequencies. There is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. So shake yourself free of the past. No longer do we walk in the dark. And show each other what we can do, and let our light shine right on through. The spell is wearing off, and so now we rise there is no disguise. The truth of life itself is now realized. Oh.
What a wonderful, wonderful. I love that song so much. It's just got such a great vibe to it. Thank you so much. We
That
go
was
to
one of
gallery.
the- Sorry, that was one of the songs. Hang on, yeah, we were on the microphone. That was one of the songs that came knocking on my door, and I went through a lazy year of going no, 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 and then because I play on the show pretty much every week. And I've got about 60 songs on rotation, but I've probably done them all about 5 times. And it's like became so imperative for me to write new songs. I just opened the door and I took them off the hinges. And as a result, 5 or 6 songs have come through in the last 2 months. And so anyway, that's me gushing. Thank you.
Well, and we're going to gush a little bit more about you. It's really important for us to support our beloved brother, Omar Shar, and it's easy to do that. Go to his website, omarshar.com, and scroll down a little bit, and you'll see where you can get his music. And it's always best to get it from Bandcamp. And if you click there, it takes you to omarshar.bandcamp.com, and there are his 5 albums. And that way you can listen to him all week long, not just during Awakening World shows. And so thank you so much, Omar Shar. And we will conclude tonight's show with one last Omar Shar song. Also, while Omar Shar was playing, I actually checked my email because I got a message from Ian. You know, normally we see Eleanor Joy dancing, and as some of you know, she recently had a surgery. Let's put her in our prayers. She's taken a downturn, and she's back in the emergency room. She's having trouble breathing, and so that's why she's not with us tonight. So let's just remember to please put Eleanor Joy into our thoughts and our prayers, because we love her very, very much, and see her ideally back on the show Saturday night dancing up a storm. All right, I'm going to bring all of our presenters up, and now it is time for Q&A. And so we've got Karina and Doug and Kurt, and a few comments. I'll start with a few comments and then get to a few questions. Tia Therese says, doors off the hinges. Yes, Omar Shar, super. Ayada, awesome, Omar Shar. I love this song and how you share with us about your process and inspirations. Karina, this is a question from George Noble. Karina, were you perhaps a client of Edgar Cayce's in a past life? And if so, did you guys talk about that?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, so I don't know if you know of Alba Weinman, but she's been doing hypnosis work for the last 30 years. And I had a session with her a couple of years ago. It took me a year and a half to get in with her. But when I finally did, there was a lot of information that came up, just past lives with Edgar and working with him, and not a client necessarily, but just working with him very closely. So yeah, there's a lot of that.
And you know, while the camera's on you, I'm adding Kurt because Kurt has something he wants to share about your presentation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so absolutely. So many of us have a whole thread similarly to these interventions from the Akashic field. And these are the journeys of the inner astronaut. And just like with astronauts in the physical universe, you go places and you meet people. When you go on that inner journey, same thing. You go places and you meet people. And those interventions in our lives are huge at turning points in our life. When I was doing my book, The Coming Inner Spiritual Age, I had an entity, a beautiful female presence who started as an energy, and then I could eventually sit down with her just chair to chair. And her name was Idra. And I had to find out later from J.J. Hurtak, who's an expert on Kabbalist Judaism, that Idra is actually a council in Kabbalistic Judaism in the spirit world. And then there's this ancient manuscript called the Idra, which is about the joining of heaven and earth. So just like you said, that you start out not knowing the backstory for one of these intervening entities or beings, and then it unfolds as you go into this deep relationship, which then becomes so key. And the thing I wanted to mention in Paul Mills's book, Spiritual Lives of Scientists, which is one of our books, it's absolutely full of these mainstream scientists who finally are willing to speak out and tell their truth of the intervention of trans-dimensional beings that have been instrumental in their life. So as you were speaking, I was just saying, yeah. I mean, this is so important because it shows us, just like when Omar Shah was talking about his mother, we're living in this continuum of a field of consciousness and multi-identities and on and on and on. So it's just so wonderful what's manifested with you, and it's just is the journey of the inner astronaut. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. It's I love it.
I love bringing people together, and Kurt is really such an extraordinary connector. He does so much. All the books that he publishes, his Light and Light publications. He organizes or oversees all the different synergy circles for Source of Synergy Foundation. He is quite the magician and really quite extraordinary.
And we can bring Doug in too, because I have to say that some of the other beings that have been in my life, and I started writing about some of them in Mindahi's book and then in the recent Akashic Field book. One of them was an intervention at the time that Doug was buying his center in Atlanta. And in my chapter about that in Mindahi's book, I don't name Doug, but Doug is that person that we went to meet Ken Wilber, and it was a part of this blessing of Doug's vision for this Center for Progressive Christianity and the work that he does in Atlanta, which then got the blessing of these transdimensional beings that were a part of the orchestration process. So a little bit tough to talk about this. If my scientific friends are listening in, they'll think I need to see a psychiatrist. But these dimensions are huge. So Doug, you have a background.
Finely orchestrated. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's not uncommon for any of us. That's why I say narratives come from many different places. And what we don't want to do is try to figure out whose narrative is the supreme narrative and spend all our time in arguments over our narratives. What we're doing now in the higher consciousness realms is to simply ask, what is the nature of that to which your narrative points? So everybody is saying, well, I came from this, I came from that, I came from that. But the amazing thing is that we're ending up in this unitive narrative, this holistic, WHOL, this holistic outlook. So all of these things are evidences that after a while, how long can you go? It's like in science, Jude says, we can no longer consider the universe a happy accident. I love that. And so the same is true of our spiritual experiences.
I see that Christy Michaels has her hand up. So Christy, I'm actually putting you on camera. Maybe move your down a little bit so we can see more of you. And go ahead with your question.
Yeah, well, I just want to really acknowledge Doug and Kurt and Karina. It's so lovely to meet you. For being the sacred masculine that you guys are showing up to be, and not being afraid to look at the edges of spirituality and opening your hearts to other possibilities. And Doug, the way that you languaged some of your progressive ideas, it was music to my ears. And I'm, as Scott knows, I'm all about the Magdalene and raising up the Magdalene. So I would love any thoughts or feelings or connections or insights or awareness around the rise of the Magdalene, because she's been rising. It's been so powerful for so many people, and mystery schools are opening up around her and about her. And so I just want to throw that in the mix. Thank you.
Gospel's out too.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll bring Kurt up next. Anything you'd like to share about Mary Magdalene? Did she come up in any of your work? And that's a question to all three of you.
We're talking about an archetype, and whether it's Kuan Yin or whether it's Kara, or these are archetypes, and then they're the hero of 1,000 faces. They appear in the 1,000 faces and in the face that will work best for you. In other words, the way Idra was appearing to me, or the way that Edgar and Gladys were appearing to Karina, is in a way that is so deeply intimate that it's able to communicate even at a deeper level than we're even used to in our normal relationships with beloveds. And so the archetype that's arising now of the divine feminine, and really what fourth wave feminism is, it's the message of the feminine without any of the constraints from the past. It's not reacting to whatever happened in the past. It's all new relative to what the feminine is itself. So it's gigantic, and there's so many champions of it out there, from Anadea Judith, who's just written a book called The Goddess, and you can go on, or even Andrew Harvey, who wrote The Return of the Mother, and he's a gay man. So the archetype is even cross-gender, you know?
Anadea was on the show last week, a week ago tonight. Anadea was on. We love Anadea. Karina, how about you? Does anything come up for you about either the divine feminine itself or
Mary Magdalene's come in many times. She comes in with a scent of this just beautiful scent, and this omnipresence of energy. So yeah, she comes in quite frequently. But I can depict her by this scent. It's almost like this maple syrup. It's very distinct. So that's a part of my process too. It's sensorial. It's body. It's sensing. It's seeing. It's hearing. They come in so many different ways. But yeah, she's come in several times. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And like you said too, it is becoming stronger and stronger. So I think the more that we are able to connect into our soul self and connect inward to discover all of this amazement that's inside of us, it's happening more and more, because it is the ripple effect. It's absolutely that is helping all of us.
Yeah, it's funny, I just happen to have here, this is the painting of Kuan Yin by Grandfather Morning-Owl. He's a Lakota elder who's been visited by all of the different archetypes. And here's what's interesting about how this all fits together in that holism that Doug talked about. When I showed this to Tiokasin Ghost Horse, who's the moderator of one of the big indigenous radio programs, he said, "Oh my God, count the number of spokes in the halo. The number of spokes in the halo is the same as the number of limbs in a Lakota teepee." And so the way that these things interconnect is just it's mind-boggling.
Wow. Well, speaking of mind-boggling, I'm going to briefly bring up our friend Kurt Kruger, the other Kurt. We've got a pair of Kurts happening tonight.
This guy's known as K2 because KJ is. We meet every week, and it's such a blessing to hang out with the dude, you know, especially somebody that's named, the old German means wise counselor. So we get.
Well, K2 is clearly a great mountain of wisdom.
Too, it's so exquisite when you get to see it firsthand.
KK, what did you want to share tonight?
Oh my God, everything is so inspiring. This unity narrative is, I mean, we had Jude Curvin on a Humanity Rising program that the Peace Lab produced. And Kurt also, same program was on, basically it was called the Peace Matrix, the network of networks. And that's what we're basically creating here and in the World Unity and all the different programs that are out there, Sign Network, et cetera, that it's all coming together now. We're undercover, so to speak, from the news or anything else. And that's a little sad, but we got to break forth fully ready. And that's what's happening with all the different networks that are forming. We formed the Peacemaker Circles and Network that basically has a training program for people at any level of understanding of Bao'u. We have people on the continents, but down in Antarctica yet. We're getting there soon. And it's at their own rate, and it's a way to be able to have people bring it into first right here with a peaceful meditation. If people are not used to meditating, it can be in their language. There's the piece, it's called Peace. Everything as you breathe in, everything was peace. As a matter of fact, it's time right now to do this. Everybody here can lean forward and have your hands on your thighs. And as you're ready to breathe in, we bend backwards, bringing our fingers to our heart. And everything with peace as we bend forward, exhaling. Peace in everything. Everything with peace. Peace in everything. Everything with peace. And we do this psychosomatic spirit practice anytime we could use it. You can't move like this because let's say you're bedridden. You can move a hand or an eyelid, however you want to, but the little key, it's a Kabbalistic expression. It allows the body to basically get that muscle memory and mental repetition reminds you of what we are, peace and love. And we attract it more and more. The cosmic force has to fill this in space that meditation creates. And what does it fill it with? We know it fills this with light and love that we can then share in our own inimitable way. Some people do it through gardening. So they're doing regenerative agriculture in their communities. We have these Africans in their villages, transforming villages, bringing the soil to be cooler. Because right now, in normal kind of soil in America, Great Plains, the soil is 135-degree temperature. You go to a place that's organic, and what happens? It's a lot, like 20 more degrees cooler because of that microbiome. And again, we people intellectual understanding and a direct experience with these practices that we bring people into, whether it's getting people to experience how to be able to solve an issue on their neighborhood. We had somebody beat up our street. We're in a small, not totally a cul-de-sac, it's a loop, but we're in Southern California. And our neighbor got beat up by some people that were looking out at he just started to talk with them. And they just, for some reason, wanted to hurt him. Brought everybody together in our community. And we talked about what can we do? The dialogue with others is the most important. That's why I put in the chat about every time you get on a call, every time you get on a program like invite others to it. I did. I invited a Pakistani that I was with. They interviewed on his podcast and said, come to this. It's a great experience, and you can share your gifts, just as everybody, you can get the gifts of all these incredible people. So this is what we're all about. Thank you. I think that's enough.
Thank you, Kurt. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, we're kind of winding down. We're going to do one more review of how to get your books, but there are a few more comments and questions coming in. There's a question that came in on Facebook asking Karina if she can at will kind of connect to Edgar Cayce. Like, can you go into meditation now and kind of call him in, or are you having to wait for him to make the phone call?
Makes the phone call. I can feel his presence here, right now, but he pretty much, yeah, he's very laser. So yeah.
Okay. I've got a question for all three of you. So as we kind of are looking at this world and what's going to happen, and we heard from Jude about it, what are all three of your thoughts about the idea that it's a dream world, that this is a very complex, extraordinary dream, and each of us are having our own individual dream and certain collective dreams? And I'll leave it at that and see what that triggers for each and every one of you.
Well, I would say that obviously most of us agree with the Vedic cosmology that consciousness is causal and that material actually is a manifestation of consciousness. So this experience we're having is an experience in consciousness. And when we understand that, it turns everything on its head relative to what we were taught in the past, or as conventional science, even though I'm a mainstream scientist, that would say it's the other way around. Now, that being said, then you go to all the dimensions and the parallel universes, and I think it's quite a dance. And I think Karina will probably be able to learn from Edgar and Gladys as well. When I was at the Dalai Lama's 2 years ago and staying in his guest house, I had a very unexpected dream about all of the simultaneous persons that I also am, not only on this planet, but also elsewhere. And since then, I've been able to visit some of those places, and in 2 cases, even physically, which was a bizarre experience. So there's something going on there, and Karina talked to that, because we're in a matrix of identities, and we're in a matrix of connections.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always, it's connecting into streams of consciousness, or one or many. When we start to connect in, we're actually merging with that energy. So we're embodying it, but it is a process. But it's almost like these blips of pieces of information coming in. And it starts happening in this beautiful synchronicity. It's just beautiful, but it is the unfoldment. But once we open the door is open.
And it's interesting, if you go online and search some of this stuff, you'll find out there's a tremendous literature on this. I knew there was a big literature on past lives, but I didn't realize there's a big literature on simultaneous lives. And it was only after that experience I had at the Dalai Lama's, I got on Google, and there's a whole landscape out there of people that have reported on that experience. So,
and then it's the deep knowing. Why do you know that? I don't know. I have no idea.
Doug, would you like to add to the conversation?
To me, I think one of the things that is just a duh or so easy to take for granted is the fact that I exist. And what I mean by that is that I get to have an individuated experience of a realm of form, and I get to make free choice decisions under the umbrella of the source that holds all things together, and who has the power to reconcile and restore. When I make decisions that have consequences that are on the negative side. And so to me, I see myself, many people have said this, it's a spiritual experience of this realm of form. And so I have my 5 senses. I get to, and you can take that for granted. You can take beauty and taste. You can take, how could you describe maple syrup to someone in your experience if you did not have this realm in which to know what maple syrup experience was? So to me, I see just a real beauty in being able to have an individuated, free choice experience, have my turn on the merry-go-round, have my turn on the roller coaster. And to me, that's the beauty of experiencing the reality of form, as Kurt says, that really is in my mind, but yet which is not ultimately that which is my reality.
Well said.
Powerful. Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. Another question that came in is, I'm kind of taking a very long question, kind of synthesizing it. This is from Rachel on Facebook. She's wanting to know, what are some practical steps that any of us can take to feel more connected to our multidimensional self? We can't all, she made a joke, we can't all be at the Dalai Lama's and have a dream while we're visiting him. So are there ways that we can drop in and connect to our multidimensional self?
If you lean into love, all doors open. And the simpler that love is, the more childlike it is, the more it's based in awe and wonder, then all the doors just open up everywhere. So if you lean into that tender part of yourself, then, oh boy, watch out.
Absolutely.
Go take it a step further. What does that really mean, leaning into that? Like, how does that look in practical, creative life experience? How do you do that?
Well, I think most people, if you want any example, if you lean into any experience of beauty, there's a woman out there who says it's beauty that's going to save us. But when you lean into a flower or you lean into music, you just lean in, you make that connection, and then it's just automatic. So it's really that simple in a way.
Yeah. I think honoring yourself that much to connect in, taking that 5 minutes, taking the half an hour, taking the couple hours, whatever works for your lifestyle, connecting in with yourself that much, because you
Yeah, and there's also a forgiveness process. You know, all of us, because we've experienced negative feelings about ourselves, there's a huge forgiveness process within ourselves. As Kurt Kruger just said, before we can fly free, we have to have that conversation with ourselves that just wipes the past out and just lets you fly free from shame or anything in your past that would have, you know, tied you to negativity or hurtfulness or whatever it may be.
Absolutely. The shedding of the skin, you know, through writing, through meditation, through dance, through art, through hiking, nature, whatever that may be, gardening. You know, there are multiple areas that you can transform yourself into and discover yourself in a new way.
Beautiful. Doug, anything you want to add?
I would just simply say to anyone who says, well, I haven't had such experiences and I can't write music. These beautiful songs I heard, I don't have that ability. I don't have this, or this hasn't happened to me. That as both Kurt and Corinna are saying, when you lean into love, now that is really the essence of what we're all experiencing. It's just that it happens in a diverse number of ways. And it doesn't make me any less or any more than anyone else. And you may experience in your life something different. You know, there's moms and dads tonight, they get up tomorrow and go to work. They got kids. They're going to go to the soccer field. They've got all these things going on. What you can experience that love in all the relationships that you have. And those experiences may not come out multidimensional for you, but you can learn from people that have had them. And it doesn't mean that you're any more or any less than the rest of all of us that are having these, you know, same experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And find the joy in everything. You know, I used to go swinging on swings. I mean, I still do. I love it. You know, what is that? I'm just swinging in a park. I mean, that brings joy to myself and opens up another door. So,
beautiful. All right, well, I'm going to read a few last comments. Christy Michaels just really wanting to emphasize lean into love. Perfect reminder. Jeffrey is reminding us that when we get the book, and hopefully many of us are going to get transferred, to the exercises in the book. There are exercises that are going to help with that very question that Rachel asked. Tiara writes, it's the tender sweetness filled with reverence and innocence. Jeffrey is again reminding us, yes, Jeffrey, let me show people where to get the books. Awakening of Humanity, go to issuu.com. That's where all the wonderful things that Kurt creates and his collaborators, and that's where you'll be able to find Awakening of Humanity. Again, it's a free ebook. And definitely make sure you follow Light on Light, which is amazing. And of course, we've highlighted many of these books already on our shows, and I'm sure we're going to be highlighting many, many more. Kurt, is there anything you want to say about Light on Light while we're on it?
Well, I will say today we just closed a concept with the Galileo Commission to do a book in 2026 on everything that they've done. You know, they've been the group of scientists that have led the alternate non-materialist worldview. And so we're so excited about that. And yeah, we were created, Bob Atkinson and I founded it after we did the book, Our Moment of Choice with the Evolutionary Leaders. Really, they're books about the paradigm shift, and they're books to spur the paradigm shift. That's what we're all about. We're a nonprofit. No one gets paid. Everybody's a volunteer. That allows us to do great books very cheaply. And we're really looking around for the people who are trim tabbing this, turning the ship around. So that's what we're about. And we've been very lucky. We've got 6 Nautilus Awards in 2 years. So we've been very lucky.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ellie writes, and I guess this is for you, Karina. Ellie writes, swinging might remind you of flying, Karina. I usually close my eyes whenever I'm on a swing, and I feel like I'm flying once again.
I love that. I do that too. It's fun.
And Diara wants to come and play with you. So I think probably a lot of our people.
It's good.
Well, a wonderful way to come and play with Karina is to go to her website, which is trinehealing.com. That's TRINE healing.com. And I always encourage people, get on the email address and learn all about the different things that are going on, and she can stay connected with you. And of course, once you've signed up, just like I just did, then go to I Am Not a Robot. Oh gosh, it's going to make me do those things. Oh my gosh, H9, and I always get the
EWE.
EWE. Okay, hopefully I got it right. Is it going to make me do it? No, see, doesn't it? The characters do not match. All right, well, I'll get back to that because it always takes me a while. Yeah. Okay. Trine Healing is the place to go for Karina. You know, we have one more friend that I almost forgot about, who I had done a pre-record with, and that's Bob Atkinson. And Bob's a big part of this this book. So, Kurt, do you want to introduce what Bob's kind of relationship to the book is, and then I'll play my pre-recorded interview with him.
Yeah. So Bob is an understudy of Joseph Campbell. They had a very close relationship, and Bob's expertise is on what's called the monomyth, the hero with 1,000 faces. We're all on the same journey. We're all the same hero. We're living out this journey from beginning through muddle to resolution. That's the monomyth. That's the story of each of our lives. Beginning, muddle, and resolution. And so we brought Bob into the book because seeing this whole journey that the whole planet's going through as a part actually of the monomyth itself, and the planet, even Gaia herself, going through this, being the hero on its journey toward full potential. So that's Bob, and you have a video of him, and just spin it. But I have to say, Bob and I did not know that we met when I was a monk in the 70s for 10 years. And this is when Pete Seeger was sailing the Clearwater up and down the Hudson. And we were wearing white habits. And every time the Clearwater would come up the Hudson, we'd go down to the shore and we would wave at the Clearwater. And because we were all dressed in white, they would wave back. We were easy to see. Bob was on the crew. He was on the original crew with Pete Seeger of the Clearwater. So we didn't know it, but clear back in 1969, we had met by waving at each other. So how's that for a bizarre story?
That's pretty amazing. Well, here he is. Here's our friend, Bob Atkinson, talking about the book. So here we are with Bob Atkinson. And I've had the good pleasure, as I said before, to know him and work with him on the Evolutionary Leaders Network. And today we get to learn more about his exploits as an author and supporting other authors. And let's just start with a little bit about your background, Bob. You've written quite a bit. You contributed and really helped make Our Moment of Choice happen. And we've promoted that a couple times on our show. And then you have this other wonderful book. So tell us a little bit about your background and experience as an author and how you've used writing as your way to help create an awakening world.
Sure. Great to be with you, Scott.
Yeah.
Well, after an academic career of about 30 years as a professor at a university, where I did write some books there too, but they were kind of focused more on developmental psychology and life story interviewing, with a little bit of what I'm doing now in the background there. So after becoming a professor emeritus, I really started focusing more on the consciousness of evolution, and that took me in a number of directions, as you mentioned, with co-editing Our Moment of Choice with Kurt Johnson and Deborah Moldow, with over 40 evolutionary leaders contributing to that, and that was a Nautilus Book Award winner. And I've had 2 other Nautilus Book Awards since, one just before that. In 2017, I wrote The Story of Our Time, From Duality to Interconnectedness to Oneness. And that was also, I guess I did mention a Nautilus Book Award winner for that too. And then after Our Moment of Choice, my most recent book is A New Story of Wholeness. And that's really a guidebook, a workbook, a workshop in print to write one's own story of wholeness that begins with the process of hearing and heeding the call to wholeness, which is followed by undergoing a path to purification. And then the third part of that journey is the return to wholeness. So the second part of that book really is an in-depth guided process that anyone can follow to tell their own story in that universal pattern, which I'll say more about, I guess, when we get to talk about the awakening of humanity.
Yeah, I'm going to your website. And by the way, everybody, this is his website, which is his name, robertatkinson.net. And there's the book, A New Story of Wholeness. And I'm actually going to read a couple of beautiful quotes. Of course, we all love Reverend Michael Beckwith. He's been on the show many times. And Michael writes, "A new story of wholeness asserts itself among the great texts on spiritual evolution and unity consciousness, allowing us to create and share a new narrative grounded in love, harmony, and interconnection. Study this guide. Your new life awaits you." And that's a pretty powerful recommendation from one of our favorite spiritual teachers, Bob.
It is, yes. I definitely appreciate his thoughts on that.
So the thing that I've noticed as I've gotten to know you and read about you is how you weave mysticism, spirituality, science into your understanding of humanity. And I'd just love for you to talk about that for a moment and really maybe more in your personal journey of life.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That actually goes back to my own journey. When I was in my mid-20s, I had the great fortune of meeting Joseph Campbell at one of his Cooper Union talks in New York City in 1970. And that was at a time in my life when I was in the midst of the journey that I went to a lecture of his that he was talking about, which came from his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And he calls that the monomyth because it's really the one myth that all cultures have in common with each other. And so that I became very familiar with that. And then at the same time, and somewhat before that, and during that time and after as well, I was continuing my own study of comparative religions, which included mysticism. And from a master's program in American folk culture, I became familiar with traditional rites of passage and all of that. And I began to recognize that what I found in the monomyth, what Joseph Campbell had described as the one myth common to all cultures, that pattern was also present in traditional rites of passage. It was also present in the mystic way, and it was even present in psychology with Carl Jung's individuation process. So it's and there's many variations on that, and it's also very common to. I mean, it's the basic story structure. We're all familiar with beginning, middle, and end, but that's not really what it's all about. There's a deeper level to that, and just from the story model, we can think of it more accurately as beginning, muddle, and resolution. And the muddle is what we will all experience in our lives as challenges and crises and moments of despair that turn into a process of transformation that ultimately lead us to the intended resolution. So I found all those ways of knowing had that one thing in common. And you know, from mythology to mysticism to rites of passage to story itself. And they all also at the same time are representations of what we also call in the book that we'll get to in a minute. They're also examples of unitive narratives, which is which in its simplest form means stories or narratives that bring about unity. So that's what they're all for. Rites of passage exist to bring about unity at a higher level in the community for the young person going through the rite of passage, and the mystic way, the same thing. It's about bringing about unity on a greater and greater level each time we experience that process of transformation. So that's a quick,
I love that you're saying that, Bob, because as a coach, you know, my other life as a relationship coach, almost every session I have to remind people to make peace with the confusion, make peace with the not knowing. And especially in relationships that are struggling and challenged, there's like wanting to know, will you change? Will this work out? Will this be? And we have to be in the process and make peace with the not knowing, which is another way of saying what I'm hearing you speak to right now. So that's powerful, because we all want safety and we all want to think we know what's going to happen. And the truth is, none of us ever really know, because life is life, right? So this leads us to the book that we're talking about today, which of course is Awakening of Humanity, the Dawning of a New Earth and a Unitive Age. And it's interesting, it's by these three brilliant people, Doug and Jude and Kurt, and we've already heard from Doug and Kurt tonight. But it says with a spotlight by Robert Atkinson. So tell us about your spotlight on this very, very beautiful and powerful book.
Yeah, so a spotlight is a short piece that's really meant to sort of highlight some of the main themes and concepts in the book. So that's what my short piece does, and it I've kind of touched on some of that already, because in that short piece, in that spotlight, I do talk about the commonality, the universality of the process and pattern of transformation that all of those ways of knowing have, and how they're also at the same time all expressions of a unitive narrative. And the other context for this book and the spotlight in it is that it's really about a little different approach or perspective to understand a hollow movement from. So
Mhm.
what we've done here is, I mean, as you've probably already heard from Doug and Kurt, the hollow movement is the inherent wholeness and motion of the entire universe, and that's comprised of the two orders that can be called formlessness and all things formed, or another way to look at those two orders might be the changeless and all things changing. There's a variety of ways of looking at that, but the hollow movement is really about how they are parallel paths or parallel riverbeds that eventually, as humanity evolves further and further to a higher and higher level of consciousness, those two riverbeds will converge into one, and
Mm.
will become the eventual reunion of the two orders. So I touch on that in the spotlight, also about how the hollow movement itself is the archetype or the first of its type to illustrate this spiraling, unfolding, and enfolding nature of evolution. So that's another way to think of the hollow movement as a unitive narrative, is that it's really the first of its kind to describe what's happening in the universe, and how we, humanity and all living things, are part of that process, and that it has a purpose to it, that there's a direction to it, and that direction, as I indicated, was toward a reunion of the changing with the changeless, and so it's all part of that. I mean, that's kind of what my spotlight summarizes. It's also, we say a little bit, or in the spotlight, I say a little bit about how the hollow movement is also an expression of how other stories like it have are really carrying out the Hermetic principle of as above, so below, all things accomplishing the miracles of the one thing. And so we started out as the storytelling species, and humanity has gone off since its infancy. It's gone off in many directions in its childhood and adolescence. And what started out as a unitive narrative became got divided through because of all of the conflict and chaos and conflicts and wars that have taken place. But we're all of that is within the context of an evolutionary flow and impulse that is bringing them back together. And so we've reached a period now in our evolution where we are realizing, as we approach humanity's collective maturity and the dawning of the unitive age, we're realizing that the greatest need is for new stories of wholeness to frame this interconnectedness. And so that's what we're doing with the awakening of humanity, using the hollow movement as a context for that. And I bring in the various ways of knowing that I refer to as also essential parts of that whole thing.
Beautiful. That's so beautifully stated, Bob. Beautifully stated. And, thank you for being on this journey of awakening that we're all on, and playing your beautiful role and providing such powerful wisdom. So thank you very much. And again, a reminder to everybody that you can, if you're interested in learning more about Bob and his wonderful work and his books as well. And we'll do a whole show on his books one of these days. But there it is, A New Story of Wholeness. And you can find out all about Bob at robertatkinson.net. robertatkinson.net. And thank you, Bob, for for being a colleague and a friend. And thank you for being with us on the Awakening World.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. It's great to have this conversation with you. And I look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Take care, buddy.
Okay.
Gotta unmute myself.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? I was thinking while Bob was talking that in the midst of all of this, Edgar and Gladys formed this friendship with Karina. Now that's just fabulous.
I love it.
That's a bit fabulous.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
I want to spotlight Light on Light a little bit because, again, this is an amazing resource that Kurt and his colleagues have put together with all these incredible magazines and publications that just really covers almost everything. And so many of our favorite guests, I see there's Antoinette, there's Deepak, a lot of our favorite people that have been on the shows there. So go to issuu.com and then /light on light and get the magazines, get these publications because they're really quite beautiful. And thank you, Kurt, for all that you do. Thank you. I want to thank Doug and Karina and Kurt for being on the show. Lee, thank you for coming back on. And I am going to take it to our beloved Omashar to conclude us for the evening with a wonderful live musical number. And thank you, Omashar.
Thank you.
We shed the cross of ages, revealing light within the form. We share the joy in living, as finally we know the thought about a future. This moment is all we have to know. We walk the path together, and hand in hand we grow. As we walk on earth, we're building an eternity. Now all can see the way back home again, bridging heaven and earth. Oh, and now the way is clearer as we rejoice in human form. Our lives becoming dearer. There's truth in everyone. Our love is like a river to which the world can come to drink. An ocean when together, and with one mind we think. As we walk on earth, building an eternity. Now all can see the way back home again, bridging heaven and earth. Finally we know, bridging heaven and earth.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, beloved Omar Shar. We love you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm already feeling sad. I mean, we're going to miss you very, very much. And it's wonderful that we'll have the videos to watch, but
You will have the videos to watch, and I do imagine I'll swing by Glastonbury, because who could not? I'll go via Avebury into Glastonbury, and so I have in the middle of my journey a couple of days carved out for that, because one has to. So,
you know, I've spent the last week with the Twin Ray during this retreat, and a lot of the retreat is talking about the power spots of the world and such like. And I've always, in the times that I've gone, though, I discovered that Avebury is where the power is. The tourist in Stonehenge.
I know, right?
Is where you can just be there present.
It's subterfuge, yes.
And the Twin Ray yesterday, when they were talking about the grail spots of the world, one of which is Ashland, Oregon, and the other one that they talked at length about was Avebury.
Yes, indeed. Well, how cool is that? I love it when it's espoused by the Twin Ray, because they're also talking about Mount Shasta and Glastonbury being on the ley lines and at the heart center on the ley lines. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, namaste, everybody. I will carry you all in my heart, and I shall see you sooner than a blink, because time is just an illusion. So, yeah, I'll be having my experience, and it'll be awesome. So thank you so much.
Oh, beautiful. Well, safe travels.
And thank you for this show tonight. I am so inspired by Karina and Kurt and Doug and Bob, and of course Jude. I've never met Jude in person, but you know, we feel that we know these people very well. And Kurt has been on the show many times, and I feel your heart, Kurt. And thank you, brother. Yeah.
Bringing up all of our friends who've been with us tonight one last time. And a reminder that this Saturday night, I always want to let you know what's coming up next. It's the Illuminate Film Festival. We will be celebrating this great festival. We're going to meet some of the filmmakers and see trailers of the movies and talk about what it's like to make these incredible movies. We're also going to have a visit from John and Summer Raymer, who have a very exciting announcement to make. And we will play a Omar Shar video, so he gets to still be on the poster. But live with us are Fanny and Vigari. So we'll have Fanny and Vigari back with us. And I've just added Dina Tomasino is going to provide a rather special experience. So join us this Saturday night as we celebrate and discover all about what's going to be happening at the Illuminate Film Festival this year. Thank you, guests. Thank you, all of our wonderful participants. Blessings, everybody. Have a great few days. We'll see you on Saturday night. God's blessings, everybody, and good night.